Welcome to Capture the Reps podcast, the podcast for fitness creatives by fitness creatives. Each episode, we will dive into techniques, strategies, and behind-the-scenes stories to help fast-track your career. Whether you're behind the camera or in front of it, this is the space to grow, create, and connect. Hit it, Sam. See, the great thing about video production is there's editing involved, so people are gonna have no idea that we restarted the episode until I just said now that we restarted the episode. So welcome to Capture the Reps podcast. I'm your host, JT. I'm here with Steph today. Steph is a videographer and an editor. Editing is what we're talking about today.
Right.
Post-production, happening at fitness competition, fitness events, all that kind of stuff. How to have a quicker turnaround time and the workflow that actually makes sense. So Steph does it literally all the time. Like, might have done it like this past weekend, right? Just say yes. It'll make for better audio.
Yes.
Yeah, of course she did. And let's talk about, you have an upcoming event. Let's say, I know there's a Desert City qualifiers happening this weekend here in Phoenix, Arizona. So with that, knowing you have that coming up, like what do you do between now and let's say like Thursday, Wednesday, whenever the workouts actually come out? What are some steps that you do, or like what are some helpful things that you do to put yourself in the best scenario for success?
Just kind of be involved in the community. Like there's some things that, you know, you don't necessarily need to research if you know kind of like backstories of certain athletes, if you kind of know some storylines of what's going on. Since, I mean, you and I are both like pretty involved with the local community here. So like there's stuff like that, you know, we kind of know who's doing the qualifier, how it's supposed to be ran.
So really it's just like talking to people around the gym.
Yeah.
Kind of getting a sense of that. If you're like a videographer, photographer that maybe isn't familiar, like maybe like reach out, kind of figure out what's going on, follow people's social media, look at the leaderboard, all that kind of stuff, and kind of get some basic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think a lot of, especially for me, like, I mean, you as well, I feel like we both do like a lot of, you know, behind the scenes, more so like storytelling. It just goes a long way to actually have like relationships with the athletes. And I mean that, yeah, there's not really too much you can do within a couple days leading up, but really over time, like building relationships, and like I think that makes, you know, your work doable. Being organized is like the biggest thing if you want to turn around a project either day of, or if you want to turn something around and publish it.
What do you specifically are you organizing? Like, is it you're setting up your file structure, you're looking at like the workouts, like what on your end are you getting, you know, cooking, so to speak?
Yeah, before I even start shooting, I normally have a project already. And when I say project, like I already have like a premiere project already made. Another thing I really like to do is I organize my footage as soon as I have it. So all of my footage is labeled by camera, shooter, and date and event. But
so before you even shoot anything, you already have your folders set up in that fashion. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you're simply just off, like, so you don't even have to think about it. You're offloading footage directly from your SD onto your hard drive like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then you're transferring that into bins, which for those that don't use Premiere, it's basically a folder, right? It's like a folder of organization.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, they're just folders. They help keep me organized. I'll also pick out music that I want to edit to beforehand.
I love that, yeah.
Sometimes you film something and then like the music you thought you were going to use, it just doesn't work. So that's kind of an evolving process, but for videos, like music is really a driving factor of your editing. Mm-hmm. I'm always like trying to listen to new music.
Sure. Where do you go? Like, what do you like? Are you just perusing like Instagram, TikTok? You looking stuff up on Spotify? Like, where do you go for your music? Like for inspiration, I should say. Like, oh, I think I could use this song if it's on Instagram. Obviously, copyright and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, something to that effect.
Yeah. A lot of my music inspiration just comes from Instagram. Just like I think
just the fun scroll, just going, working it. Yeah.
I do take a lot of inspiration from like other creators, other videographers. So yeah, a lot of that, a lot of just like Spotify stuff. So
what I really like on Instagram, to your point, is like you can start compiling this massive list of songs. So I do the same thing. Like before we go to a competition, I'm like trying to find like songs that would make sense, line them up so that when I enter into, and I know we're going to hit on this later, like the editing aspect is like you have all that stuff ready to rock so that you're not wasting that. Because I mean, it takes a while to find a good song, right? You could waste 30 minutes to an hour and a half just sitting there, just waiting for something to come your way. So yeah, having that is very important.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. So anything else on the pre-production side? I mean, you hit on the idea of having the folder system set up, the music choice is clear, doing a little bit of research of the actual athletes that are participating, the workouts that are announced, all that. Anything else that you like doing before you start?
I think the more you do it, the more you kind of learn what gear you want, need. So that kind of, comes down to the shooter. I guess full time, I do more editing. So yeah, that's kind of
but we're getting you in front of a camera now. It's gonna be great. So we got to keep that rolling.
In front of and
behind. Sorry, yes. I'm saying that now because like I'm actually getting out in front of the camera now. So now I'm saying that more than saying behind the camera. It's all a whole thing. Anyways,
it's a whole thing.
Yeah. So talk me through now. You have your file system and you're bringing it into your editing software. I know you use Premiere. What's like the next step in there?
I rename all the clips with the camera, the shooter, the event, and the date.
Okay, so each clip gets those assigned?
Yeah.
And then is there any other additional descriptors that are happening as well?
No.
Okay, so just that. Got it. And this is before you bring it in the Premiere?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful if you like want to go back and to know who shot it, what camera it's on, when I'm like editing later on, or even like, oh, maybe it's weeks, months later, and I want a clip from a certain shooter, from a certain camera. But yeah, then I'll import those into my project, create a timeline for selects, and start pulling selects. So I'll basically skim through all the footage that I just shot, or even if someone else gave me their footage, I'll skim through all their footage and kind of just make like really broad cuts. And I basically just put everything in a timeline into what's usable footage before I really even start like the actual editing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so selects, for those that don't know, what you're doing is you're taking all of the footage you have. So regardless, it's the moment that you hit record to the moment you hit stop, right? That entire clip. And you're just pulling what you think could possibly be utilized in some fashion later down the road.
Right.
So, like you said, broad strokes. It's not going to be like tight cuts that are going to make into a video. This is like, hey, here's everything that is usable from what I just filmed that day in order to make content from.
Yeah, exactly.
So you pull those selects. Is there any type of organization you have within that selects timeline? Like, do you try to group certain... So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, how do you have that set up?
Yeah. So I color coordinate everything. So everything's shot by shooter A. That gets one color. Everything shot by like shooter B. That's another color. There's a couple different examples where I'll color coordinate. If I were shooting like two different athletes, then I would, and it was the same shooter, like if I were shooting both of those athletes, but like they both need their own videos, I would also like color coordinate.
Okay.
Like if I found a clip like, oh, it's this athlete, every time I had a clip of them, I would color it a certain color. If it were a different athlete, I would color that a different color too.
So a couple different things happening there. So when you have two different people that are filming one thing, you coordinate them different colors. However, when you're a single operator and there's multiple athletes going at once, you then color coordinate to those athletes as opposed to the shooter.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay.
So it just kind of depends on what you're doing. If you're the only shooter, if you're working with multiple shooters and you're the only editor. Yeah, it just kind of depends, but whatever you need to do, whatever I need to do to stay organized. So like when I open my project back up and I can look back and see like, oh, this, I just know what each clip is.
Yeah.
So
it's funny too. Like the big thing to like note about all this is like every editor has a different setup. So like it's really cool to hear your setup and like what works for you, you know, and hopefully when people like listen through all these, I know we're hitting on a few more here, but hopefully when you're listening through all these, you can take like a little bit of bite-sized pieces and maybe implement it in your strategy or vice versa, you know? Sure. So good. We have the color coordinating system. Now we're moving to the final deliverable. So deliverable time, how do you set that up now on the next stage? Yeah.
So on the next stage, I just create another timeline. That'll be like my edit. Yeah. I just copy from my selects timeline, move everything down to my edit timeline and select the song choice or the portion of the song that I want to use. Just start editing.
Yeah, just start going. So the song gets laid down first though, and then you're copying all your selects over, you're putting them down in the timeline, and then you're just going crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Pretty much.
No, I mean that's very similar to what I do. That's actually exactly what I do.
Oh.
So that's what, I don't do the color coordination. That is a new curveball that I actually kind of like. So
yeah, it helps. I mean, it's helped me a lot just because like working with Buttery Bros, like I'll sometimes like be sitting there and I'll get an SD card from Heber, Mars, and Julian, and I know like whatever Marson is shooting, like he's shooting like the actual competition. Heber is mainly like conducting interviews, and then Julian is more of a C-cam, like getting more like wider shots. If I color coordinate all of their footage, then I kind of know what clip I'm looking for. Like I know like, oh, this is an interview. Yeah.
And it gives you variety too.
Yeah.
So you're able to literally see the variety. Like you don't have to like scrub it and like kind of take your cursor. Like you can literally see.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. So we've now finished the edit. What do you use in order to, whether it's transfer files or, you know, whatever the next step is, let's say for our purposes, qualifier, distribution, if you're not collaborating with someone on Instagram, or if you're not posting someone on behalf of somebody, if you're delivering it to the final individual, like what do you use or what have you seen be effective just for that quick turnaround?
Just airdrop, text for as far as quick turnarounds. If I'm actually uploading somewhere and there's not like a need for a quick turnaround, I use Frame. Do you use like any
frame.io? Yes, that's what I use. Okay. Yeah. So that's a really good service. I really like that. Especially because if you're in a scenario where maybe the turnaround time isn't like less than 6 hours or whatever ridiculous that we do, it offers the ability to have someone look at the video and then offer their comments and feedback with timestamps. So again, not for necessarily competitions. I mean, you could, I guess in theory, but for that quick turnaround, that's a great way to do it too. So yeah, airdrop is definitely big, especially if you have the ability to have a media room or a separate media space where you can edit and then walk up to your athlete, coach, whatever, and airdrop it through. What's really cool about what you do too is that not always are you going to be on location with like the videographer, producer, director, all that. What about receiving stuff from others?
Kind of depends on how much footage I'm getting. Like it's pretty hard to transfer 4K files online. I don't think people really realize that like that takes a lot of time. It takes good Wi-Fi.
Which if you're traveling, the hotel Wi-Fi is like hit or miss. If you try to do it on the airplane, which I've done before, it's psychotic. Don't even try to do that. So yeah, I hear you.
With Buttery Bros, Grid League, like we've done a couple different things. What I think has been the most efficient for me is at least like Buttery Bros, like they'll make proxies so they can at least like upload to me really quickly. I can download them pretty quickly on my end.
Proxies, for those that don't know, what you're doing is you're taking your original file And typically you can I use Adobe Encoder for this, but there's a bunch of other different sources out there.
Yeah.
And you're creating a smaller file size that's a little bit less of a quality goes down, all that kind of stuff. But it's an easier way to edit, especially with a remote editor, so that you're not transferring the full file size. You're transferring just like a fraction of the original file. And then once it's sent back to you, if you want to make changes, you can just transfer the proxies on there. I don't know the right word, but you replace the proxies with the actual file, and it's
you just attach them. You just attach them back.
Thank you.
And then you can actually export in 4K again. I guess the only difference is if I'm getting footage from someone else, like then when I'm pulling selects. I mean, you probably do something similar, but when I'm pulling selects, I'll create like scenes. But I'll just put everything in a timeline, and I just make like big breaks, big gaps. So
I do the same. Yeah.
Okay.
I do the same.
So that like things are kind of like just spaced out into like, oh, there's a group of clips here. That's a scene. There's another group of clips. That's another scene.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think especially for the turnaround time, that is brilliant, because it's like you film all morning, you do that real fast, and then typically, in a lot of events, you have to go back out for the second half of the day.
Right.
And just being able to come back to that at night, because you're going to forget. I mean, you might remember, but you're going to forget most of it. If you've never seen it before, that's a whole nother thing. So it's like, if you have the grouped aspects, so I'll even group it sometimes, like, here are my establishing, here's the actual event, here's the individual, I'll do it by athlete. So there's no right or wrong way.
Okay.
I don't think. I think you just
gotta just what works for you.
Exactly. What works for you. But it's important to group them so that you know what's happening.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the times too, like I'll get like interview footage. And I have really only started doing this recently, but it's really helped me. Like, so I have like my selects timeline, and then I'll do another timeline like with all my interview footage. And that's only for like, I guess like actual sit-down interviews. That's going to be intercut with the entire edit, but I've been putting that into like its own timeline, so I kind of lay out like the interview structure in its own timeline too.
Yep. No, I that's smart. I mean, that's especially when you're dealing with so many different interviews and all that kind of stuff. If you can separate them, whether it's by athlete or whatever file system or setup you want to utilize, I always like to pull, like, for a thing I did recently, like, same type of thing. I laid out the interview that I had beforehand, and then I pulled different parts that I know would make sense, pull that into a separate timeline, and then have that laid down as my audio. First lay down the music, then lay down that, then lay all of any type of B-roll that I have and start shifting that over into the spots that make sense. So yeah, if you have stuff organized like that, it just makes things a lot faster, so you're not searching for things and all that. I think that's the overarching of all of this, is like, by you clearly labeling and by putting things into the proper structure, you then allow yourself for a quicker turnaround time at the end of the day when you forget what you shot or the order you shot it in or what happened here or whatever it is.
For sure. I don't know, if you're just like making a reel, sometimes you just export and that's all you do with it. But I mean, for, I guess, projects that maybe have a little bit more thought behind them, and you're like, oh, like, I really want it to be perfect. Like, if you want to do a revision later, even if you want to do a revision like that same day, I think it's really helpful just to like kind of know where everything is.
Yeah.
So
me and Chris were talking about this in an earlier episode, is like the idea that we never eat or drink. Like, we forget because we're working constantly. So it's like, how do you handle all of that, and like what's the setup you have for that? Not the eating or drinking, the editing aspect. I'm assuming you know how to eat and drink because you're still alive, but
I think the goal is always to have it done like as quickly as possible.
So in that instance, when it's as quickly as possible, like, are you okay with like, hey, this isn't perfect, this is good enough? Like, is that the strategy? And then it's like, okay, once I'm done with the event, I can go back and like polish some things and make some really cool stuff. Is that kind of your mentality, or?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty similar to like what my mentality is like.
Well, great minds think alike, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I honestly just try to work fast. You can't control like when the events are, so like you have to go shoot again, but I'll try, like I'll do my best to get like event 1 edited and as perfect as possible before I like have to go back out. I think that saves you a lot of time at the end of the night if you're just on it, because then if there's another event that day, you know, everyone gets to leave when you're like you still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. And we also can't eat like how athletes typically eat during these competitions.
Right.
So, even though we sometimes do.
Right.
Right.
Honestly, I think everywhere I've been, at least like the games, WFP, it's like no one's really eating healthy.
No. It's usually a little bit of a struggle for sure.
Yeah.
So what differentiates that shorter form piece of content and the longer, because I know you do a lot of longer form content as well, like
yeah,
what adjustments are made as far as on your editing side for those two? Like how do you differentiate those?
There isn't much.
So if there is nothing that differentiates, nothing is the answer, but
yeah, other than like for shorter form content, like it's just faster. Like I don't feel like I really need to spend a lot of time pulling selects because like I'm just looking at it. Like I don't really need to be like listening to what people are saying, or like I don't really need to be like spending a lot of time on interview footage.
So the selects in a short form area are typically shorter clips that you don't necessarily have to pay 100% like attention to what they're saying, as opposed to the longer form where it's like, hey, no, let me hear this out because we need to play this out a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
I would say like
it.
for longer form, like it's like, oh, like we want to tell a story. We need to know like,
yeah,
you know, how someone's feeling going out on the competition floor, how they feel after, you know, their event or whatever it is. Then it comes down to like editing dialogue, which can be a little bit more time consuming. So
yeah, for sure. So taking in all of your like experience now doing this for a while, what are like some like lessons that you've learned? And you don't have to like go into specific examples, but if there's certain things that like you've pulled from the past like couple of years that would be helpful for someone that, you know, is editing either their own footage or someone else's footage, like what are some helpful things that we can tell them to kind of like fast track their learning experience? Good question. I know. Good question.
Good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, an important tip for all editors is to back up your clips somewhere. I've seen people like lose their footage while they're shooting an event.
Devastating.
Yeah.
Devastating.
If I'm working with someone else, like they'll have a copy of everything too, and so like they'll have a copy of all the clips, the project. Just kind of everything. Anything
else you want to add as far as tips or stuff that people would want to take in? Good question. No. I know. Good question. Good question. Well, I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you guys listening, and see you in the next one. Do people say that?
I think so.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Capture the Reps podcast. If you're a fitness creative and you found this episode helpful, please share this with a fellow creative and keep creating, keep learning, and keep capturing those reps. We'll see you next time.